get to where our vision is. Bullshit ready, everything in life got its benefits. Moving steady, had a face to face with my nemesis. Every day I leave and where my mirror sit. Any given day your life get taken. That's just part of the simulation.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm talking with Anti-Lilly, a Houston-based musician. How are you doing today?
Man, wonderful. How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing pretty well. I woke up feeling pretty refreshed, feeling pretty ready for this, so I feel good.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking out the time. I know we had to do a few maneuvers to link up, but I'm glad we was able to make it happen, man.
I'm so glad too. Could you tell the people a little bit about where they might be able to find your work at this point, whatever you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, my name's Anti-Lilly, human artist, rapper. Music is available on all digital streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Tidal, Apple Music. It's ANTI space LILLY. Frequent collaborator with Don't Sleep Records, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right. So to open, you've spoken to the idea that this past year has been one of the most challenging of your life mentally, speaking to the idea that you haven't been well in recent songs. What do you think are the biggest factors that have gotten you that place, and what's helped you to improve the most over time?
That's a great question. I feel when like my music is reflective of my everyday life, for better or worse. As we grow, we get a little older in this life. Just different challenges present themselves. We battle different demons, and specifically, this past handful of years, I personally struggle with different types of addictions, and I'm at the point where I just I can't use that as a crutch, right? It helps to speak about it because, naturally my microphone was my very first therapist, right? So like a lot of the times, by the time you guys hear it, I'm probably doing a little better. But personally I had a lot of issues with alcohol. It's just one of those things that, runs in the family, but I'm proud to say I'm about 20 days from being a year sober, so it's just, one day at a time, Jack, right? Like that's
Yeah,
all we can do. But all I could focus on is making today better than the day before, right? Just
absolutely.
being active, really tuning in, it helps.
To your point about music being therapy, or especially an early form of therapy, that's a topic that comes up a lot on the show. I was wondering, would you be able to speak on sort of the medium of music as a form of therapy a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel that music is a universal language. It's vibration. If you break it all down at the end of the day, it literally speaks to your soul. A lot of the BPMs, it's at the rate of the heartbeat. So you can be, for example, you can play music for a little kid, right? Like a small child, and you can see the enthusiasm, you can see the excitement. So I really feel that, I've been blessed with the opportunity to, be able to contribute to that art form. And it's something that I try not to take for granted, but I think it's really vital, especially the world that we're in now, where there's so many, different opinions, and, people aren't really listening. They're just, waiting to make their point. I feel like music has always been that common ground, right?
Mhm.
Like outside, we could like the same songs. We may not have the same views, but you know, we can maybe relate through the music, and it's a real huge part of bringing people together. Just from being a fan of music, being someone who contributes to that culture, I've been able to like meet so many awesome people from different cultures, backgrounds, understanding. So I think I don't think that the world or, you know, us as a society would ever be on the same page. I don't think that's realistic, but music is like that common ground. And there's other mediums as well, but music is so important, you know, for folks because everyone needs that escape out of life. And I know that's something that, you know, has been beneficial to me. So yeah, music is vital. Not everyone either, you know, has the insurance or the money to go to therapy or they're willing to go to a therapist, but you could put your favorite album on, right? Like I remember being a kid listening to Pop, Zero, Lupe Fiasco, and it's like I'm hearing and I'm able to relate. And it's like it takes you to a different place. You can visualize it and it like gives you an escapism from your reality. So it's vital, man. It's vital for sure.
To that point about vitality, I find myself wondering, what's your favorite piece of music at this point? Like when you really think about the things that were most impactful, or even like just kind of the most special to you, what comes to mind?
As far as favorite albums or what in
Yeah,
particular?
like a favorite album or a favorite song or a favorite musician, someone that kind of I think embodies some of those qualities for you.
Okay, yeah, man. So I actually grew up. My parents were born like in the '60s, so in the household we had a lot of Marvin Gaye. Like, what's going on? That's an album I still revisit.
Me too.
Um, I fell in love with more classic old soul music before hip hop because I know you're a little younger than me, but you know, coming up in the '90s, having like, my parents had me in their 30s, so like hip hop was like damn near taboo. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So I fell in love more so with the oldies first. Marvin Gaye for sure. When I got into hip hop, I know he's a more of a local artist out here, but you know, Zero. It's actually a song I remade of his. I Found Me. Um, it's just you know, those are some of the artists that I you know drawn to initially that wanted to give me that spark to create music.
That's really cool. And could you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your process of getting into hip hop in the beginning? Like how do you remember first hearing it and what kind of led you into getting into the culture yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest. I have two older sisters, youngest of all of my cousins. So, you know, you kind of start gravitating to, you know, what your loved ones are listening to at first.
Mhm.
Um, I've always been a real like positive person. And it's like once you get conscious enough to understand that I could do this too, or this, you know, I can't really describe the feeling, but it's like you hear a certain song, you get motivated, and where you may not be as comfortable, you know, sharing your thoughts with your family, I was comfortable writing. Even in school, like I wasn't like a high GPA student by any means, but I always had like a damn near 100 in every English class, writing class. Like I've always excelled at writing. I know that's one of my gifts. And I don't know, you know, if you're born with it or it's just something that comes to you, but I've always felt more comfortable expressing myself through writing.
Mhm.
It didn't even naturally start with me writing music, right? It'll just be more so me getting my thoughts out. Whether that just be me free forming, writing poetry, but I would say the age of, you know, 12 to 13, getting into my teenage years, I really, you know, was influenced to, you know, go about doing music and, you know, spin the town forward. I'm still here, still blessed, and just trying to continue to elevate my craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your writing ability is really powerful to me. You've expressed a lot of ideas while keeping the flow and writing pretty tight. Could you tell me a little bit about how you've approached writing sort of from when you started out and how that process has evolved to today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it all started, like I said, I used to just get my open thoughts out. Um, Even still, like I don't speak too much, naturally in person. I would say the biggest difference now is just when I was younger, I don't really have that much insight as to what you're doing. You're just doing shit, right? Like I'm like, man, I just want to do it. I feel like doing it. But I would say now, 30 years old, I feel more of the obligation to do it. So here's what I'm saying. Where it initially started, like a release process for me, by the time I started putting music out consistently and seeing the, impact it has, people reaching out to me and letting me know how my, thoughts may have touched them, it just gave me this sense of obligation to keep creating, not to be selfish with my art, not to be selfish with my thoughts. So I would say that's the biggest difference. The process itself hasn't really changed. I mean, maybe I don't write in my notebook as much as I used to, right? We got iPhones and shit, so I'm in the notepad, but I would say the main change between now and then is just I have more of an understanding of the importance of what I do, and that it shouldn't just be for myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's sort of something that should be shared, would you say?
Exactly. And it's a blessing to be able to do that, and it's something that, I still have taken for granted in the past, whether I'm, getting in my own way, but if I was to check my email or Bandcamp, Instagram, any of these platforms, just to see folks from all walks of life, just
Mhm.
whether they're posting my lyrics or, just sending me, love, positive energy, that really just lets me know I need to continue to create, because I had the ability to change lives for the better. And I think as artists, like we have to keep sense of that obligation. Like what we do isn't just for us, it's for the world at the end of the day.
That's a beautiful vision, and I really respect the fact too that you've clearly put a lot of thought over time into how your kind of like involvement in that process has evolved.
Appreciate it, man.
To ask a slightly lighter question, just from genuine curiosity, did
Mhm.
you end up escaping the company you discussed in company cigarettes? And what do you think about 9 to 5 careers, standardized careers at this point?
I view them a lot differently now. I'm still there, got a mortgage.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm actually still there, obviously a much more limited capacity, but I feel that world that we live in now, you have to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to take care of your family. Ultimately, it is a blessing to have a job. Um, I don't view it as a career. It's just, what it means to an end. I've always, been a hard worker, and, if I have an ability to get another stream of income, then I'm able bodied. Why not do it? I would say at the time I wrote Company Cigarettes, I was just the headspace I was in. I didn't feel appreciated. Um, I was still a little bit more on the come up as a musician than I am now. And I had lost a close coworker of mine at the time, and just the conversations I would have with her really inspired that song. And I was hurt about her loss. Like there's a lot of good benefits with having a job. Like I was around your age, when I wrote it initially, and she was what 30, 40 years my senior, but here we are, different walks of life, right?
Hmm.
Same environment, and certain people pour into you, and like, you keep those memories, and that song is really a dedication, to her and her spirit. So it was just a combination of wanting to, you know, give her a proper tribute, and she would always tell me, don't limit yourself here. You're so talented, you know, give yourself to the world. You know, this shouldn't just be the only thing you do.
Hmm.
Because, you know, she had dreams, she had goals. And as you get a little older, you realize time flies by really fast, you know, and she more so didn't want me just to stay stuck on that hamster wheel of
Hmm.
you know, having that 9 to 5. I think it's important no matter what you do in life, because you know, some folks they love it. You know, whatever you do, just do it to the best of your ability. Um, but I have so much more focus and so much more insight now, and I've done so many more things, you know, since I wrote that song as an artist, to where if I didn't have those conversations or spend all those times with her, I would probably, you know, not even be in the position where me and you were speaking now.
Yeah.
So it's a balance to everything, I believe. Like, we can choose to focus on the negative, but there's always something positive going on at the same time. So, you know,
Hmm.
eventually I'm gonna retire from that place, but I'm there in a much more limited capacity now. I'm just pretty much there and I'm gone. You know, I'm on call as I'm needed, but
Yeah.
obviously the art, the music, that continues to be the main focus.
I respect that a lot. And to that point, what would you say inspires you the most to write on that creative end of things at this point?
Just life. It's always been life. Um, the highs, the lows, you know, the things I see in my environment, the things I see my family, you know, deal with, the things I deal with myself. Sometimes just wanting to make some fun shit. You know, it's just I try, like, me as a writer. I know a lot of rappers they'll give you and some of them are like, hey man, I write 30 songs a day. Like, man, I write when I write. You know, I
Mhm.
write when when the inspiration comes to me. So, you know, I can go maybe a few days without maybe writing the full, you know, track, or, you know, maybe even recording sometimes. I just, as my thoughts come, like I could be in the shower, I could be mowing the grass, or, you know,
Yeah.
shopping for groceries. I just focus more on getting those thoughts out.
Mhm.
Um, I strive on making my music and my art as organic as possible. Like, I don't try to force myself to create, if that makes sense. Because I don't have fun. I want to feel as comfortable as possible. Right.
I respect that process a lot. It's something that I've found, I think, can help that writing process to be more fluid. Like that's something I've noticed across like talking with both Tiff the Gift and A1. They both talked about the idea that it's like you write when you're inspired to, you know? I think that
Right.
leads to a much
Exactly.
more creative process.
I agree. And those are two of my mentors. So it's funny that, you know, we all have that same thought process.
And actually, to get into that a little bit, would you mind talking about your relationship with Don't Sleep Records over time, and particularly your relationship with the closest members?
Yeah. Well, all of them are family. You know,
Mhm.
from Def Low, Phoniks, Tiff the Gift, A1, even those names you may not see associated, like my man Teo. You know, they did the documentary on Netflix. We're all one big family. Our love for what we do brought us together, man. I think we told this story before. So the way we actually met back in the what I call like the blog era of hip hop, the Source magazine, they dropped like a monthly list of, okay, here are the hottest albums, hottest underground, you know, albums, mixtapes from across each region. Obviously, with me, you know, being a Texas native, I had the South. A1 and Phoniks dropped that Return to the Golden Era,
Mhm.
right? So it's like you always, you know, check on your peers, and you know when you're the same lane, or you know you see yourself on the same publications and different lists with some of the same names, their interest is gonna get peaked, right?
Mhm.
So it's funny how that works. Like, I was vibing to Golden Era. I would say about a week later, Phoniks hit me, and originally it was just gonna be, maybe a track here or there, but it's just, I would say the chemistry was instant. Again, we don't force it, but it got to the point where, Phoniks is definitely one of my muses, creatively. It's like we don't necessarily have to do too much verbal, but it's like we're on that same. A lot of the times we're on that same wavelength, other than we're not. A1, you spoken with him.
Mhm.
You can vouch for this. He's a well of knowledge. Like,
Yeah.
you can just be in a room, pour so much into you. I didn't have some of the best influences growing up. I'll just leave it at that. Just, to be embraced, like, they embrace me, man.
Mhm.
It's just a good feeling, and I still to this day, that's why we still work together.
Mhm.
Because it's nothing but love. Tiff the gift, man. I got so many stories with her. Like, our first time on tour together, I got a real bad case of homesickness. Like, she's my third sister. Like, she just, like, the love, like you know how you can see someone's aura. Like, you ever see the Dave Chappelle skit where he did the Rick James and he had the glowing aura around,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's
He's
Tiff.
like right
Like,
around.
that love is just there, and it's genuine. So I think it's important, especially as we continue to grow, to put yourself in those type of circles, because all you can do is elevate yourself when you're dealing with folks who are operating on a high frequency and a good vibration. So it's nothing but love, and it's always gonna be nothing but love for my Don't Sleep family, for sure.
Absolutely. All love from over here, and big shout out to all the members too, everyone you mentioned, everyone associated. Shout out. And to actually speak about one of the points where you were working with Phonics, you spoke in the fact that That's the World is your favorite record you've done.
Mhm.
What vision did you have for that project, and is it still your favorite? How do you think about it now?
Yeah, I think it's going to probably be my favorite until we put the next one out,
Mm,
only because how I'm feeling at that time is, it we put that out 2019, right? So
mhm,
it's a lot more closer how I felt in maybe 2014, or when we did It's Nice Outside. That's not saying that all of those albums I hold high esteem, but I think just really diving deeper into it, I was in the midst of my demons.
mhm,
Like, I think when you just going through each album, that we did in the trilogy, stories from the brass section, full head of hair, young guy, you
yeah,
know, new to the world. He's been through some shit, but he still doesn't even know, what he's going through. But he's seen the world, he's embracing it, and trying to continue to find that positivity and keep elevating, right?
mhm,
And then he lives a little bit,
mhm,
you make some shitty decisions. You don't, necessarily, well, maybe you put the trust in the wrong people. You get betrayed, you get, you know,
mhm.
adulting is what I would call it. Then we get It's Nice Outside, right? Beautiful album. I love it. And at the time when I made it, I think Phonics has shared this. I reached out to him and I was like, bro, I gotta get it out. Help me out, in
Mhm,
short. So, making This Nice Outside at the time of my life, I was more so in my early to mid 20s. That's when you really start, experiencing life. It was so important. And I think that body of work, it was needed as well, for
mhm,
that time that we were in. And then, we fast forward a few more years. I'm still figuring life out, but That's the World in itself is just, in sense, saying, like, hey, there's gonna be some things you can't control, right? I think us as humans, it's natural. Well, I'm gonna just speak for myself. I'm very solution oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm presented with an obstacle, a problem, my main thing is to focus on, okay, how can I fix this? That's the world. I didn't have a lot of answers at that time, but I'm making peace. Like, you know what? It's out of my control. That's the world. There's gonna be different seasons. And that was inspired actually by a conversation. And you hear him a bit on the album. One of
Mm-hmm.
my childhood friends is just inspired by a conversation we had when I came to his house, and we had a real deep talk, and he brought that up, and I was like, yeah, you're right, bro. That's the world. Why am I why am I carrying all of this weight, and I'm worrying about all of these circumstances that I can't control?
Mm-hmm.
Just go with the current, make the best out of your situation. And at that time I was really in the midst of my the alcoholism and everything else, because trying to find a way to cope, like it was to the point where writing wasn't just enough anymore. Recording just isn't enough anymore. Certain people come to you and have certain expectations, or they vent to you, and I am a great listener, but I didn't have anyone. I still have anyone where I was able to get recharged. So that's the world, man. That's me as an iPhone on 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to get recharged, but I'm okay. I'm not okay, but I'm trying to figure everything out. And I also feel that, like, at the time it was put out, it was just so important.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing more cathartic than like getting a body of workout. It's like release. It's like you feel that weight come off you. And the way I felt when we were finally able to put it together, hear the album back and forth, mixed and mastered, like I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that really started my journey to, recovery and just trying to get the fuck out my own way. Because I've always been like my biggest obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of us. Like it's no one or no entity can stop us from operating how we need to operate. It's always ourselves. But we put these certain barriers up, but you knock those walls down, all you're gonna see, reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at the point I'm acknowledging it. I'm seeing that reflection. So all I can do after you acknowledge a problem, now you're able to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, to this day, man, I have so much of a appreciation for that project. All of those are my babies, though, right? It's like asking to pick your favorite kid. You can't, but it's like all of them have a different meaning and a different feeling for you, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's the world.
That's the world.
So in terms of that idea of recovery, I really like the way that you talked about that within slightly more modern time. But I've always found interesting that on the song "What Would You Do," you talk about a life where you're kind of sliding toward crime, and you talk about the idea of like a pistol being put in your hands as the wake up call to kind of end that chapter. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice for young men, especially young black men, to kind of wake up from that slide, or ideas on tackling that issue within the youth as a whole?
Yeah, and this will go for I would say any community.
Mhm,
You're not entitled to do like fit into any particular mold,
mm,
right? Like you don't owe anyone anything at the end of the day. Someone can be really good for you, but they may not be good to you.
mhm,
Um, I had to put myself in a different circle, because here's the thing, like I said, man, um, there's folks who came up a lot worse than me. Like I had both my parents. Like that's a blessing in itself, but it's like everyone gets into that shit growing up in the particular circle I was running with. Yeah, there, situations could have been better, but it's to the point. It's like, why am I like, I know I'm better than this, and I can't play the game that society expects me to play. It's like when you have that flashpoint moment, that was it for me. I'm like, what the fuck? What am I gonna do with this, right? What am I like? Play it out like chess and look at it from a higher level. And I think a lot of the times, I don't even want to call it peer pressure, but like your environment really, dictates a lot of decisions you make. You're a teenager, your brain still isn't even fully developed yet to make those type of conscious decisions. And I just felt at that time that was my wake up, right? So, no one's perfect at the end of the day, but I'm not a gangster rapper. I'm not a, anything like that. I don't have any type of affiliations, but that doesn't mean like, you won't get into your own shit. Anyone can, that's another thing people tend to get misconstrued. Anyone can become anything at the end of the day. If you're in a certain type of environment that can influence you, but you have to have that willpower and that knowledge itself, right, to be able to separate it and not worry about so much of, what your peers are going to think. Because ultimately, if they are there for you and they want you to grow and they want you to succeed, you won't even be in those situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just without getting too much further like that. That was like that flashpoint for me.
Absolutely. And to that idea of willpower, one of the things I found interesting since the beginning of your career is the idea where you set up conversations with God as like a pretty recurring theme. And I think that's something that touches on a slightly more intimate side of writing that some people aren't as comfortable getting into directly. Out of curiosity, what's your relationship with religion or that sort of theme at this point?
Yeah, I don't associate with any particular religion. It's, in my opinion, it's a creation of man who in itself is flawed. I think another interesting thing you hear is more of that spiritual growth on each album, right? Where I go from just, blatantly, I was in church and shit, still, going in and out on stories from the brass section. So I'm talking about, conversations I will have with my pastor, or, what have you, to elevate into a song on It's Nice Outside, like Loose Prayers, right? Like that's me saying, look, I don't know where this shit is going. I don't know if it's gonna reach any like that spirit in it, I need to tap into something to where now I do have a belief in God. I no one ultimately has the answers at the end of the day. I feel more that it's an internal feeling, like that voice in the back of your head, your conscious, that's your God. We are all gods at something. We had the ability to create, we had the ability to destroy, and really influence our own environment. So I would say where I am in my spiritual journey now, like I definitely have a belief in a higher form of existence, a higher form of vibration, whatever you choose to call that. But I think that's something, if you really tap in, you hear my spiritual progression as I like stray more away from the religious side and get into, the spirituality side of it.
And to that point about spirituality and consciousness, you talk a lot about self-reflection, both, in interviews when you're posting stuff and in your own music. What do you think is the biggest thing that allows you to be reflective? Like, do you think that's how you've always tended, or do you think that's been a development process over time?
It's a little bit of both in the sense that, you have to keep growing as a human. as you continue to exist in this world, um, you're gonna spend more time with yourself than anything else, any other entity. So you have to have a certain peace with yourself. You have to be okay, with the person you see in the mirror, because ultimately I'm the only one who can walk in my shoes, right? Like you're the only one who can live your existence.
Mhm.
You can be with someone forever and really not have an idea of who that person is.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not in their head. So there is no accountability like self accountability. There's no love like self love, right? So, like to get to that point, to get to that level of peace and understanding, you have to be able to check yourself.
One thing I want to touch on as well when it comes to that idea of self-reflection and sort of thinking about ways to express that is a pretty consistent theme of your music is water, with rain in particular being a visual metaphor you use often. What's that significance?
So I'm inspired like the Bruce Lee, right? Um,
Mhm.
be like water, like that's something that I really resonate with. The
Mhm.
water adjusts to its environment, right? Like you could put water in the pool, it's gonna take the shape of that pool. You could put, water in a jug, it's gonna take the shape of that jug, right? In
Mhm.
that bottle. Another thing too, rain gets an association like, oh man, it's gloomy, it's bad. Yeah, but that's not it. Like there's a balance too. You growth, right? Growth
Mhm.
comes from that rain. Um, so it's just a reminder that like there's beauty in every element of life.
Mhm.
Like sometimes something gloomy has to happen for you to, redirect your life into growth.
Mhm.
It can't always be sun because guess what? Well, just from someone that lives in Texas, I can tell you if the sun is out for 2 weeks straight, thing is gonna die.
Mhm.
That's a drought. So it's like you need that balance, and it's just embrace the rain, embrace everything. Like you have to, be able to make peace with everything that comes. And I tend to like when I've used it in the past, that's more so what I'm trying to, bring that knowledge and that awareness to. Is like it's not all bad that it always rains, because there's benefits that comes from it. Just like there's benefit that comes from, sunshine. You need them both though at the end of the day.
Mhm. It seems to me that, a pretty big thing that you've talked about over the course of the interview so far is the idea of finding balance, like with everything, whether it be work and music, whether it be,
Mhm.
more positive mindset. Could you speak a little bit to sort of your progress in finding balance, how you think that happens?
Yeah, well for one day at a time. That's all we can do.
Mhm.
I would say the biggest difference between me at this point this year versus me even last year at this point, don't try to take it all. Take it all in, but don't try to take it all and, you know, try to fix everything. You can only do the best you can do at the end of the day. Also understanding that if everything is always going well, everything's always going good for you, you lose appreciation for the other side of
Mhm.
things, because life can't always be like perfect. Nothing would There would be no stakes, there would be no value to anything if everyone just had this fairy tale ass life. You know what I mean? Like we need like you need that. Like you develop calluses, right? It's because you're working on something, you're building something. So for
Mhm.
example, like you're in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're getting those calluses on your fingers. Oh man, that sucks, but you building your strength at the
Mhm.
same time. So like it's like balancing everything. Um, it's important because it keeps you in check. It keeps you with the right type of perspective, and you're able to see the world and see the beauty in the world a lot more, which by extension makes you more appreciative to the small things. Like I
Mhm.
would say now I have so much more appreciation for, life in general. Even on my shittier days, I still find appreciation and I still find something to be thankful and be grateful for. And that's ultimately, what message I try to be consistent with.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a message I feel like I heard a lot on like Over the Woods in particular. And I wanted to see if you would be willing to talk a little bit about Indigo Klan. My understanding is the group consists of you, Devontae Hunter, and God King Preach, right?
Absolutely. So three of the hardest artists in the city of Houston, the state of
Mhm.
Texas, my brothers, like my mud brothers, like we all, you know, well, we're still coming up together on the underground scene. Like,
Mhm.
three side, like Houston is a huge city. We're all from different sides of towns, different areas, different thought processes, but we all relate, in the same way. So
Mhm.
I find balance in my brothers as well. Like I'm more so of the reserve, speak when I need to speak type, right? Devontae, my big bro, he's more like the energy. Like he
Mhm.
brings that energy, he brings that presence, he brings out competitive nature in me.
Yeah.
Preach brings that knowledge, man.
Mhm.
He brings that militance, he brings that discipline. So it's like you put three of those different elements together,
Mhm.
right? So it's like we all, come from the underground. They say you can't see the forest from the trees. So we wanted to change that understanding. You could see the whole forest if you go over the woods, and it's not you physically climbing, but it's you elevating your mind. It's us telling them like, look, it doesn't matter where you from. It doesn't matter what type of music you make. Like if you all had the same goal in mind, anything is possible. And I think you hear that a lot, on the album. And I'm glad you brought that up as well. I thank you because, you know, that's that's our imprint, right? Like I brought up earlier, I'm always don't sleep, but ultimately this is going to be all of our legacy, and
Mhm.
we're able to operate individually as solo artists. Like if you haven't already, man, I recommend checking out, some of their own projects. Like these are like they may not have, gotten some of the acclaim that I've gotten so far, but it's not due to talent. I'll tell you that much right now. Like these aren't just random artists. I mean, like these are my brothers.
Yeah.
We got so many more coals in the fire coming up. That was just the first, with many. That was our introduction, to the stratosphere to let folks get a better understanding of the vision. But like you say, you know, that particular project, I wanted to showcase the balance between, me and my brothers, and, give them that spotlight that they more than deserve at this
Mhm.
point.
Absolutely. And to your point about having the kind of freedom to be able to carve out that legacy for yourself, could you speak a little bit about how independent music and sort of the ability to create art independently you think has kind of shaped some of your trajectory with that?
Yeah, I think it's been paramount in, being able to maintain some type of peace. It's a road less traveled, more sidewinds and roadblocks, but it's so worth it.
Mhm.
I can do. I'm not obligated to. Like I can do music whenever the fuck I want. Like I can say what I want to say my own time, and there's benefits to not being independent. There's
Mhm.
benefits to being independent. I think it's all up to the user. Like I
Mhm.
talk to my bros about this all the time. I'm like, look, just because I'm choosing to take a particular route, if y'all ever get an opportunity, and you feel that's best for you, I'm gonna support it 100%. Like I do believe there are benefits with signing. It's just the way I see my particular trajectory, it's not in the cards for me right now. But you know, anything can change for the future. I just feel like really, taking this route that I have taken and carving it out so far, it's just brought me so much more happiness. If that makes sense. It's like you really get to like meeting you, right? It's just being able to interact with the people who support what you do. I'm not saying you don't have that same ability if you were to sign with like a big label, but it's monitored a lot more,
Yeah.
right? Like some of these artists don't even run their own social media account. You know what I mean? Like I respect it, but again, it's just my particular path. Like I like to be more on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And within the course of that path, I was so happy to hear Better or Worse a few months ago and get the release Take It Easy on Yourself a few days ago. What motivated you to release those, and what can we expect coming up from you soon?
It was time. It was
Mhm.
time. I definitely I know we got Over the Woods out last year. I got maybe a few singles out, but 2020 this past year, again, that's when I started, my sobriety journey. I really had to, take some time to,
Yeah.
reassess some things, recalibrate my mind, spirit, and body. And, just it's just time. That's the best way I can put it. What's coming up down the line, more music for sure. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's gonna be a good year for the Don't Sleep family. It's gonna be a good year for the Indigo Clan family. I'm just back in the zone where I'm creating again, and it's fun. I think like Better or Worse, you even hear that. Like it got to the point where like I fell out of love with the creating aspect of it, and I think that's natural. I just don't I don't mind speaking about it, but I think in any relationship, whether it be with the person or, a passion or a hobby, there's gonna be, ebbs and flows, right? It's gonna be highs and lows. And like the way I felt at the time, I was doing Better or Worse. Like I wasn't on any social media, right? Um, I wasn't proactively like creating. I wasn't getting as inspired as I normally would. So it's just, a few factors played into that, but most importantly, I had to get those thoughts out.
Mhm.
Like that's not me quitting or anything like that. That's just me acknowledging the fact that, man, my life, like I said, my life don't feel the same way it did before. You know, I can't see the future either. So is that for the better or the worse at that time? I didn't know. Now I know it was for the better because I like my mindset's clear. Have so much more energy than I did at the time I wrote that song. But I think it's so important that I got those thoughts out there because I don't think that's something that, really gets spoke to a lot in hip hop. The roots of it is based in bravado, is based in, ego, is based on competitiveness. But you don't really hear too many songs where someone's like, man, this shit ain't fun right now. You know what I mean? And glad I was able to get it out because it just, again, it's just another release of that weight that was on me when I was writing it.
And would you be willing to speak a little more about that idea of honesty within hip hop in general? Because that's something you've obviously always strived for a lot in terms of both your own writing process and the way you think about it, just in
Hmm.
general. And I'd be curious to hear some of your perspective on that.
Yeah. I think hip hop folks that really, don't have a understanding of the history or the knowledge. I don't think every song has to be honest. Cause
Yeah.
man, listen to rappers delight. It's just we having fun. Like so the particular music I make is more so in that realm, but I embrace any like I love to embrace any artist, man. Ultimately, I feel like if you're doing what you love, when you having fun, like that's all that matters. I
Yeah.
don't think like because here's the thing: you have rock, but inside of rock, you have metal, you have alternative, you have you know low, all kinds of subgenres in that, but it's all under the same umbrella. I think hip hop needs to get to the point where you know people aren't worrying so much about the mainstream sound or whatever. Like it's something for everybody.
Hmm.
Ultimately, if you dig deep enough, you're gonna find the vibration that fits for you. Um, shit, man, I can go through my playlist. I listen to everything.
Hmm.
Like like because you're gonna have different moods. So I think it's important for the future of the culture. Like everyone should just like embrace it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's okay if it's not for you. Cause I listen to some shit, man. I be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what this is, but somewhere that's probably like that's speaking to them, right? And who's to say, like when I was listening, I first got into the game and I was having my favorite artist. Someone probably felt the same way. Like, what is this crap? Like, but ultimately, not everything is for everyone. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be out there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And to your point about subgenres, how do you feel about the sort of fusions that have been going on with hip hop and other genres, especially in recent years, as we've kind of had this generation that's grown up listening to such a wide range of music that everything kind of gets put together?
Man, I love it. I like it's art. Like I love art. I love creation and something that maybe was a little more taboo. But if you look at everything from a higher level, all music comes from the same roots.
Hmm.
It just branched out into different trees. But if you take the time all the way back, it all started from the same, area.
Hmm.
So, it can only like it only provides more opportunities. It only provides different ways to be creative if we're blending, you know. It's a lot more. I love the fact that it's a lot more like less taboo to like listen to like metal or rock. Like
Hmm.
I was in like bro, I was in like middle school. Like I fucked with that toxicity from System of a Down, right? But I knew for a damn sure like I wasn't gonna be at track practice or band or whatever I was doing listening to that because they gonna get on my ass,
Hmm.
like what you listening to this. But now it's like I love the fact that these kids and damn I sound old. It's crazy. I love the fact that the younger generation they don't give a fuck, bro. If it sounds good, I'm gonna listen to it. So I think that's great for the state of music. It's great for the arts. It's great for the culture. Like you should be able to listen to whatever you listen to because it's
Hmm.
like I said earlier, music it's a mood. It's different moods. So it's like the food chart.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're gonna want something a little more sweet. Sometimes you're gonna want something a little more savory. Sometimes
Hmm.
you're gonna want something that is a little more for the soul. But it's
Hmm.
all food at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
that's how I tend to look at it.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good analogy, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot more about as I've been not only listening to a wider range of artists within the last few years, but also getting to talk in person with people that are like part of that movement, working to blend those styles, working to find that new creation. So I respect
Yeah,
that a lot.
me too. Like, got to keep creating. You have to keep because we evolve as like life. Society is evolving. Music has always been a reflection of the day and the times that we're in. So you know, I'm all for it.
Hmm. And to that point about being a reflection of the time, to ask a question that might be a little more personal. One of the songs I revisit the most of yours is Father's Day,
Mhm.
and I really think it's one of the most intimate songs, at least to my ear, that I think I've experienced from not only your work but in general. And I was curious if you could speak a little bit about how you process that relationship at that point, as far as you're comfortable as talking about it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I love the hell out of my dad.
Mhm.
Um, I have a lot more understanding. It doesn't like he did some shit that it wasn't it wasn't good growing up. I think a lot of those old school upbringings, a lot of those old school, families, it's like we're gonna stay together for the sake of the children. And as a parent, you can only like no one has perfect hindsight, right?
Mhm.
Um, but at the time they felt that them maybe staying together would be best for like, me and my sister. But it's like you can see that you know when something is off. And like literally, man, the day after, well, yeah, like after I graduated high school, I would say like later in that same year, my parents were divorced.
Mhm.
Because it's like, look, we did our part. Um, y'all are growing. Y'all are gonna get into adulthood now. But it's like you can only mask certain things to an extent. So just seeing, the pain my mom, had to carry, and she really sucked it. Like I have so much of an appreciation for her, bro, because like she sucked a lot of that up just to, make sure we were good. And
Yeah.
she didn't have to do that. And a part of me wishes she didn't. You know what I mean? But again, hindsight's always 2020. Even my father, like I would say we're like closer now. Like he's a flawed man, just like me,
Mhm.
just like you. No one is perfect. He made a lot of bad mistakes, but you can teach your children directly. And there was a lot of things that he taught me as far as how to be responsible, that accountability, right?
Mhm.
That I spoke on earlier, where he may not have had so much for himself. Like he always made sure, like, I got what I needed. So I can't, for my own peace, I can't hold on to something, that happened all of those years ago. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, like my parents are getting older, and particularly with my father, like his health isn't in like the best possible place right now. So I could have this chip on my shoulder and not want to build a relationship with him, right?
Mhm.
But that'll be on me. That's not gonna be on him. It'll
Mhm.
be my fault if I let those days go away. Because one day when he's gone, I'm gonna miss the hell out of him, and I'm gonna wish I had more time. So
Mhm.
it's just I had to put that record out because it's a weird conversation to have.
Yeah.
So it's like having like I let him hear that song. That was us having that conversation. And we've only been able to build on it. Like he was a good dad. He wasn't a good husband. He's a good dad.
Mhm.
So I think that was important. And you know we were just hanging out yesterday. I took him to dialysis. Everything else, and just it's good to spend time with them.
Mhm.
It's real good to spend time with them, and my mom and every family member, because I'm at the age like I'm losing folks left and right. So you never really know when your time is coming, even myself or anyone else. So I think it's important just to really make as many memories and let folks know that they are loved and that you love them while they're here. Because you're gonna miss them like hell when they gone. You know?
Absolutely. Within the realm of memories and duality, one of the things that I think I found the most impactful about Don't Sleep Records is that idea of family over time. Like both when talking with Tiff the Gift and talking with A1, I think their stories about their experiences with Don't Sleep were some of the things that kind of stuck with me the most. and hearing about that sense of kind of love and like found family to an extent, no matter what was going on personally. Um, are there any like sort of, I think, more positive or like cherished memories that you have from that time, or memories that you keep from your career at this point?
Yeah, definitely the first time that, because again, I'm from Houston, Phoniks is in Maine, they're in
Mhm.
Virginia, back and forth. So I would say, um, so by the time I was really in the fold, they had, toured the world, I think 2 times over already.
Mhm.
I was able to join them on the Insomnia tour. And it's a difference between, phone conversations, but those memories we made on that tour together, like, man, I shed tears on that tour, everything, you know what I mean? Like, just to feel that embrace, the fucking the good food we ate, the conversations we had, the parties after the shows, like it's some epic shit that we did, man. Like, I'm gonna have those memories forever. Like those conversations with Tiff outside the hotel at 2 in the morning. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, I'm gonna always have those memories. For real.
Yeah.
Like that, it's family. It's not a facade. Like, we'll call each other. It won't say anything about music. Like that. That's
Yeah.
just something we happen to do. But like, it's family first for sure.
Mhm. What's out of curiosity, what's your perspective on performing live at this point? How do you feel about it? Are you trying to get more into it?
Oh yeah, man. I actually got some. I'll be doing a lot more shows this year, not only in my city, but looking to venture out.
Mhm.
Performing, it's so fun. Um, for a while, I don't know if it was the pandemic or whatever the hell, like my mind wasn't there. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't feel as comfortable, but man, I did Devontae, he invited me for a gig he had not so long ago, and that was my first time touching the stage, maybe since 2020, and it
Mhm.
felt good. Like, it felt great, actually. You know what I mean? I was at my stage presence. I could have improved on it. I was rusty, but like, I got off that stage, I just had to tell bro, look, bro, thank you, man. I didn't even know I needed this shit, but um, I'm like, now that the world is a little more, opened up. That's
Yeah.
definitely the plan to, you know, book more events. Get back to it, because I think that's a good release too for me. Like writing and recording, actually doing it on stage. I can't really describe that feeling, but
Mhm.
it feels good, man. I'm gonna get back to that. I'm gonna get back to that for sure.
Man, I would love to see you up in Cleveland one day, going working your way through the Midwest, all that.
Man, hook it up for me. Let's do it.
Hey, one day, I'm telling you, that's the goal. 19 at this point, but give me a few years, I'll see what I can put together.
You got it, man. You got the juice.
And to your point about kind of looking toward the future shows, all that sort of thing, a question that I've started asking because I think it helps me to kind of orient myself. Where do you envision yourself in 5 years? Not just in the sense of music, but sort of life as a whole.
And I want to have a kid by then for sure. You know, family's taken care of.
Hmm.
Um, mom's okay, dad's okay. Just, I the only vision I see is just like even more happiness, even more knowledge yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that can only come by, like we brought up earlier, that constant self-reflection, that constant accountability, setting new goals, getting out of your comfort zone. Um, that's only gonna, put me in a better position. Um, Definitely, more tours in the
Hmm.
next 5 years. But yeah, I'm just at this point, to give you the best answer, I'm just excited to be, where I am now. And the way I feel is like it can only elevate from there. I've been able to accomplish so much already at a young age. The future is limitless. You know, I can be anywhere, but regardless of what I'm doing, I know that I'm going to be happy when I'm doing it.
Absolutely. That's always the goal. Within that context, you know, thinking about everything we talked over today, is there anything else that, you know, you'd like to express? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you've been thinking about that you want to put out there?
I'll say to anyone that's tuned in, don't put any limitations on yourself. Also understand that it's okay to not be okay. You can get down, you don't want to stay down. You know,
Mhm.
understand the same way that we appreciate the highs that come with this life, we have to find a way to appreciate the lows as well.
Mhm.
Um, so if anything, that's really what I would want to lead the people with, man. Just take this shit a day at a time. Find the appreciation in the shit that we do, and it's gonna change your worldview. You know, that's if I could leave any parting words, it'll be that.
Absolutely. So at this point, is there anyone else you'd like to take a final opportunity to shout out, mention, whether it be family, other artists, or people that have helped you?
Hell yeah. Shout out to my moms, strongest woman I know. Shout out my sisters, my father, the entire family.
Mhm.
Motherfucking Indigo Clan, my boy dark skin Devontae. You know what I mean? God King preach. So much more in store for y'all this year, man. Obviously, the whole Don't Sleep family. Most importantly, anyone that has shown support, like nothing that I like what I do can't reach the level that is reached without the support that I get.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of amazing artists just in my city itself. And I'm understanding that, you know, I have been, you know, blessed enough and put myself in a position to gain the ear. And I just want to show my full appreciation. I'm not the type of person that is on social media every day, you know, would necessarily check their social media every day. Although that's something I'm holding myself accountable to do. But like
Mhm.
if anyone has ever, you know, shown love, reached out, thank you so much. I may not have gotten to your message on time. I may have missed it, but I'm so appreciative to like every single one of my supporters. I'm so appreciative of every aspect of life, man. So that I just want to end on those shout outs right there for sure.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, man. This was great. Like honestly, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Much
sir.
love to you.
Much love. Thank you.